Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here, coming to you from the kitchen once again. So not the reloading headquarters we're used to operating in, but went and did a little bit of shooting earlier. Thought I was going to get a lot more done than I did. Made it out to Swan Creek, sat down, shot I think 19 rounds total, 14 out of the 300 blackout right here. And then I was able to get one 5-shot group in with the 270, the Steyr Pro Hunter stainless. I was able to get one 5-shot group in with that. Trying to get some velocity data on that rifle, working on some 150 grain SST loads with it. So I was just trying to capture velocity data, but I mean, during that 5-shot group, just the bottom fell out and it dumped buckets on me. So everything was soaked. My target, which was this cardboard, was soaked. It's drying out now, pretty much dry. But what we were able to accomplish, maybe we can stir up some more comments about what we got going on here with 300 blackout. And the way this target, so the way I wrote on it, I wrote this direction on the target, but I was actually shooting, that's the top of the target. So for those of you that care about sort of vertical and horizontal dispersion, those type of things, this is actually what the target looked like as I was shooting it. But I just wrote everything this way. It was much easier to do that. So pretty much what I wanted to do after the 10-shot velocity test that we did, I don't know, whatever, week or so ago, I wanted to go back. We had really good velocity numbers, or sort of in the window of what I was looking for. This is the rifle, so it's the Howa 1500 mini action. So, nothing really to write home about. It's got a, however you say it, Nico Sterling, I don't know, 3.5 to 10 by 44. So not exactly, the super high magnification scope, but it gets the job done. It'll do good enough on this rifle. So yeah, so that's the platform that we're shooting out of. I think it's got a 16.25 inch barrel, I believe. I think that's what this one comes with. Fairly heavy barrel, which helped out today. I was able to, the barrel didn't really warm up a whole lot, because I was just shooting 3-shot groups, which I'll go ahead and address that immediately. That's not necessarily something you want to do to really define your end load, right? Or what you want to go with moving forward. 3-shot groups are, there's videos out there about how 3-shot groups are terrible, 5-shot groups are only slightly better. And what you really should be aiming at is more of like a 9 or a 10-shot group. And that can really tell you the performance of your rifle. Whatever, that's debatable. This is not a target rifle. This is not a PRS rifle. This is not a competition rifle. This is, hey, I'm gonna take this into the woods. I'm gonna load the mag up, and I'll pull the trigger one time if I see a deer. If I'm lucky enough to get a follow-up shot off at a couple of hogs, then I might shoot twice. That's what this rifle's purpose is. So keep that in mind, because I think a lot of people tend to get wrapped around the axle about the 3-shot group versus 5-shot group versus 7, 9, 10, 20, whatever. It doesn't matter. Interject whatever number you want to into that argument. I don't care, if I go out, every time I go to the range, and if I work up a load and I do a 3-shot group and it's hitting same point of impact, and I shoot 3 shots and I'm half inch, every single time I go out, well, that's good enough for me, because at the way this rifle is going to be used, I'll pull the trigger hopefully one time and whatever I'm shooting at will be dead. So, you wouldn't think there'd be a need for a follow-up shot. That's just kind of how it goes. But to gather data and get good feedback on load performance and that type of thing, that's where you want to extend your round count. Like the velocity test that we did, that's why I loaded up 10 rounds with each powder to get a better understanding of how the velocity looks across the 10 shots, right? Instead of 3, instead of 5. 5's not bad for velocity data. You'll see a lot of people use 5 shots to gather velocity data. 10 is even better, right? And 20 would have been even better than that. So you can take it as far as you want and run with it. But for the follow-up, I told you guys, hey, I'm going to focus on Ramshot Enforcer. So my reasoning for that is the velocity numbers were what I needed, which was over 2,000 feet per second. Since we're shooting the Barnes 130 tip TSX, I think Barnes, the minimum recommended velocity, it might be 1,800 feet per second, I believe, on that one. So for the distance that I'll be shooting, which with this rifle should be 100 yards and in, I mean, more or less, then I needed, 2,000 feet per second or more if we can get it safely, if we can get it and achieve that and not create any type of pressure issues or extremely compressed loads, then we'll continue to sort of add powder and go above max and see if we can, basically squeeze out as much velocity as possible. So we hit that over 2,000, I think it was like 2,033 feet per second or something like that with the 10 shots of Ramshot Enforcer. And we had the best standard deviation of any of the 3 powders. It was 6.5. I know typically when you're talking about standard deviation and when you care a whole lot about that number, generally speaking, you're worried about your velocity consistency because you're shooting long range. And so at long range, your impact, that will affect your impacts at long range if you have huge swings in velocity. Well, for me, I'm only shooting 100 yards and in, with this rifle. So, you might go, well, why in the world would you care about SD? Well, again, I point back to, Barnes says the bullet that I'm using, it needs, minimum 1,800 feet per second. And so ideally I would like to have my velocity as consistent as possible with as low a variation as possible. So I know when I pull the trigger, every single time I pull the trigger with this particular load that I'm working up, that the bullet will perform as intended, right? That I don't have some 80, 90 foot per second swing in velocity. That's the last thing I need. I'm not shooting long range. Now, if I was, if I had some more velocity out of that barrel, maybe say, because I'm loading up the exact same bullet in my 308, in my Remington 700 Mountain rifle in 308. And I'm pushing that bullet 3,050 feet per second. So, and again, the longest shot with that will, might stretch out to maybe 200. If I go hunt some clear cut or some cut over, might stretch it out to 200, if that. And so I would grab that rifle and tote it into the woods and be like, all right, I'm going to use this now. And so that would be an area where SD wouldn't matter as much, right? I would go, okay, what is my best grouping load consistently? Velocity spread, it's not as big a factor. right? Because the bullet is still going to perform because it has much higher velocity. So once it hits its target within 200 yards, it's going to do the job that it needs to do no matter what. Well, with this setup, it's slightly different, right? We're already starting off with just over 2,000 feet per second at the muzzle. So it's going to hit that 1,800 foot per second minimum pretty quick. It's like right at 100 yards. I think it's like 1,820 feet per second at 100 yards. So we're, basically 100 and in is where we're going to be planning on using this rifle. So, SD, typically when you hear people talk about it, it's for long range shooting, 1,000-yard stuff, way on out there. But for me, because of the bullet that I chose for this particular load, that's why SD is so critical. So that's why I wanted to identify first a good velocity load, a load that would achieve and kind of check all the boxes, which hopefully we found that in the Ramshot Enforcer load, 16 grains. And once we had that, next step was, okay, what would an adjustment in overall length look like? So the load that we shot last time was 2.1 inches, and we had a pretty large group. We hung the magneto speed off of the end of the rifle. So that, of course, impacts your point of impact. That will shift your point of impact. You can argue over group size, whether or not that has an effect, whatever. I'm sure hanging something off the end of your barrel obviously changes the harmonics more than, whatever. You can argue that and debate it all day long. Whatever, don't care. So we got the velocity data. Next up was we didn't put hang the magneto speed off there because now I'm just wanting to see, test an overall length change. So I want to see what, does anything group halfway decent? Will we even see a change if we adjust overall length? And then if we have a clear choice of, oh man, that kind of, let's go this route in our overall length testing, then I'll go back, load up some 5 or 10 shot groups or whatever, probably 5 shot groups. And, I'll shoot a 5 shot group without the magneto speed, see how it groups. Then I'll shoot one with it to get, to capture velocity data and see if we're still grouping well and all that. So that's kind of the whole thing, like the 3 shot groups. I know people are going to, piss and moan about that. I don't care. To each his own. Go do whatever you want to do and how you want to do it. This is just what I did, but basically because I had 14 rounds left. I had 14 pieces of brass left to load. So actually this one right here, it's only 2 shots. It's not even 3. But I loaded these at 2.1, 2.120, 2.140, 2.160, 2.18. We're not even fooling with 2.18. It's only 2 shots. If they were like same hole, we'd take a look at it, but it's not. So pretty cool stuff. These are all 16 grains of Ramshot Enforcer. The first 3 shot group, again, we're looking at the target this way. I just wrote on it the opposite direction. So not too bad, right around a 1/2 inch on 3 shots. Again, you take that with a grain of salt. I'm sure 5 shots, it might be, probably larger than that. But what I was looking for was, would I have an overall length that would group really tightly? You just really stack them in there. And would I see any type of spread? Would I see the groups open up? If I change overall length, you assume you will. And that's exactly what we saw. So that was pretty cool. The test kind of worked out exactly like I wanted. We increased our overall length 20 thousandths, and then the group opened up. Increased it another 20 thousandths, same thing, another, sort of that vertical shift there, group open up. Well, add another 20 thousandths, and things tightened back up to around a 1/2 inch. So that was pretty cool to see. And so now sort of the next step would be, I want to see groups at 2.1 and 2.160, right? So now I'm going to go back. Here's all my brass. I've only got 49 pieces, which is annoying, but whatever. I got to go back. I got to process all those because now they've all been fired. I got to go back, do the brass prep, load everything back up, and try my 2 overall lengths that were the clear winners of the day. And I did, so I shot the 3 shots relatively quickly for each group, but then I just sat there and I let the barrel cool down till it was cool to the touch for each group. So each group was treated the exact same way. I shot them at the exact same speed in terms of the 3 shots. I didn't wait a whole lot of time in between each shot, but then in between each group, I allowed the barrel to cool back down and waited basically the same amount of time between each group. So tried to keep it as consistent as possible. But that's it. So that's kind of an update. So that's where we're going next. We're going to do some Ramshot Enforcer at 16 grains, and we're going to load up some 5-shot groups at 2.1 and 2.16, and we will go send them down range and see what we get. So that's it. Hope I kind of cleared up a little bit of the, worrying about the SD and the velocity. Like on the CFE BLK powder, yes, it groups so much tighter than the other 2 powders, but the load it's so compressed at 22 grains, and it's almost the exact same velocity average as what I was getting with this load, the 16 grain load, feet per second wise. So didn't gain, I think it was like 7 feet per second faster. So I don't gain much on velocity, and the load was so compressed, it was leaving a ring, around the bullet. So it was, it was already starting to deform the bullet. So I would need to back off that or stretch my overall length, and I'm already at 2.26 in that load. And so this mag, you can't really load much more beyond that. So again, back to what I already said, I'm a little bit more maxed out on that load. I don't have as much variability that I can start to adjust and tweak. I don't have a lot of knobs I can turn and levers I can pull when it comes to that load like I do this load, right? I can start to tweak overall length, and then by moving overall length out, now I'm, changing the pressures, and I could possibly add some more powder, and we start to play that game. So that's kind of where we're going. That's why I chose this load to focus on first, but we will circle back with the CFE load as well. That's a pretty good shooting load, so we won't abandon it altogether. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one, and we will catch you next time.